Hello, this is another one of my videos from an old manuscript of mine, The Universal House of Justice and the Baha'i World 1963 to 73. This one, we're just starting a new chapter on the hands of the cause and related institutions. As with almost all of the videos in this series, the primary source is the book Messages from the Universal House of Justice, 1963 to 1986. There's also an old article I wrote with Moojan Momen a while back, the Baha'i Faith 1957 to 1988, which provides some sort of wider context. I'll give the references to both books in notes below the video. The chapter is divided into three sections. The first one on institutional developments, which we'll start today, and then later on we'll talk about aspects of administrative functioning and the work of the House of the Cause and the Continental Councillors. The key dates here are as follows. In 1964, the development of the institution of the hands was made the goal of the 9-year plan. That was in April. And then in November, the House of Justice announced that no further hands of the cause could be appointed and authorized the hands to appoint board members to act as their executive assistants. Then in 1968, a new institution was established, Continental Boards of Councillors, which I'll talk about in the next video. And then in 1972, the House issued a statement on those it termed the rulers of the learned, which I'll talk about again in a later video. Finally, in 1973, the House established the International Teaching Center, which I'm not going to cover in this present series of videos. So first, the hands of the cause. In its first message to the Baha'is, the Universal House of Justice had paid fulsome tribute to the work of the hands of the cause in guiding the Baha'i world to victory in the crisis years following the unexpected death of Shaki Effendi. The House had also consulted closely with the hands in Haifa about the future development of the Baha'i cause, and it had been the hands as a collectivity who had prepared the first draft for the new 9-year teaching plan, which the House launched in April 1964. A close working relationship had developed, and the House continued to see the hands as a crucial asset in the work of the faith, referring to their vital responsibility, in its message of October 63, and appointing them as the standard bearers of the new plan. Shaki Effendi had stated that the hands of the cause had the dual function of guarding over the security and ensuring the propagation of the faith, and the House of Justice reiterated the importance of this dual role. Thus, in their role as protectors of the faith, the hands were to continue to take action to expel covenant breakers and reinstate those who sincerely repented, subject in each case to the ultimate approval of the House. At the same time, in their propagator role, they were to continue to inspire, advise, and assist the national assemblies. In terms of the development of the institution, as a functioning institution, the hands had been formed and developed by Shaki Effendi, but the close relationship that had existed between them and him was institutional as well as personal. As outlined by Abdul Baha in his will and testament, the hands were to be appointed by the guardians, work in their service, and approve their successors. Having determined that the line of guardians had come to the end following the death of Shaki Effendi, the Universal House of Justice had also to determine what the institutional future of the hands of the cause was going to be. The development of the institution of the hands of the cause thus became a major goal of the 9-year plan, and in November 1964, the House reported its preliminary decisions following extensive consultation with the hands during the hands recently concluded 14-day conclave in Haifa. The meeting itself had been of vital significance. Having studied the Baha'i texts and hearing the views of the hands themselves, the House had concluded that, first of all, there was no way in which further hands of the cause could be appointed. Neither was it possible for the House to legislate to make such appointments possible. And secondly, the responsibility for determining matters of general policy relating to the hands had devolved from Shoghi Effendi to the House of Justice in its role as, quotes, the supreme and central institution of the faith to which all must turn. In this context, it became imperative to find ways in which the hands' appointed functions of protection and propagation could be extended into the future. This was all the more necessary given the significance of the relationship between the hands and other Baha'i institutions in relationship to the work of teaching the faith and to the overall development of what was termed the Baha'i world order. Up to 1973, the development of the institutions by the House of Justice passed through three main stages. The first, in 1964, involving changes in existing institutions so as to give the hands more time to concentrate on their most important functions. The second and third, in 1968 and 1973 respectively, seeing the establishment of new institutions to take over work formerly performed by the hands. Although never stated specifically, these changes were obviously made in the realization that the 22 hands still alive and serving the faith in 1963 would all age and eventually die, and that they could not be replaced. I note here of the 32 hands of the cause appointed to an active role by Shoghi Effendi, 5 predeceased him, another 4 died during the period of custodianship by the hands, that's from 1957 to 63, and 1, Mason Mimi, had been expelled as a covenant breaker. During the 9-year plan, another 5 were to die, leaving a total of 17 hands, some of them quite elderly, still actively serving the faith at the end of the 9-year plan in 1973. The first move in 1964 was to help free the hands to devote their entire energies to the, quotes, vitally important duties which had been conferred upon them. This mainly involved changes in the auxiliary boards, which we'll talk about below, but the House also felt it necessary to remind the Baha'is that the hands' exalted rank and specific functions made it inappropriate for them to be elected or appointed to Baha'i administrative institutions, that's the assemblies, or elected as delegates at Baha'i national conventions. At the same time, the larger continents, the Americas and Asia at this time, were subdivided into smaller or more manageable zones for the purposes of day-to-day administrative work. In April 1954, to help the hands in their work, Shoghi Effendi had authorized them to appoint auxiliary boards comprising individuals who would function as their deputies, assistants, and advisors. The establishment of separate boards for protection and propagation of the faith was authorized in October 1957. Both boards were organized on a continental basis. The House quickly acknowledged that the hands would continue to be assisted in their work by the members of the auxiliary boards, and then, in November 1964, announced that it was calling upon the hands in each continent to appoint 1 or more board members to act in an executive capacity on behalf of each hand, thereby relieving the hands of unnecessary administrative work. At the same time, the number of board members was to be almost doubled, raising the total number worldwide from 72 to 135. At this point, the hands had already discussed the role of the board members at their London conclave in May 1963, coming to the decision that the board members should also be freed from administrative responsibilities relating to the spiritual assemblies, so as to be able to devote their full energies to their work for the boards. Those board members who were also serving as National Spiritual Assembly members at this time were therefore asked to decide within the coming 11 months in which capacities they could best serve the faith. This decision was accepted by the Universal House of Justice, which in turn, in November 1963, directed national assemblies to advise National Convention delegates that whilst they could vote for nationally resident board members to serve on the National Assembly if they wanted to, it would be better if they didn't, so that the members could concentrate on the work allotted to them. Furthermore, if a board member was elected, he or she would then have to decide which role they wanted to retain, board member or assembly member. Again, being a board member was a valid reason from resigning from a National Assembly, though an assembly could appeal to the House of Justice if it felt that the resignation of a particular individual would be detrimental to the interests of the faith in that country. So that's all I'll say for the moment. Next week we'll talk about the Continental Boards of Councillors. Many thanks to my patrons for their kind support and encouragement. Thank you also if you've been listening this far. You're very welcome to support my channel. Please do like, comment and share on the videos. It really does help. Subscribe if you want to be notified of future videos. I'll give a Patreon link below in case you want to provide practical support. Have a good day.